Hey everybody, welcome to the Cutting Edge. My name is Alex, excited to cook with you today. It is a beautiful sunny day out here in Seattle. It feels like it's practically summer. Everyone's saying what up to each other. What better way to celebrate with a bright citrus salad like we have today. Here joined by my friend Samantha, moderating. Hey Samantha.
Hello, excited to be here and it's the perfect day for this dish.
Amen, amen. And also we're here joined by our friends from Schmidt Brothers Cutlery. We've got our friend Paulette who's here in the chat, who is very expertise with everything knife related, Schmidt Brothers Cutlery related. We love these knives here. We use them for pretty much everything that we have in terms of all of our chopping needs. They're very versatile. And the nice thing is that if you don't want a whole set, they offer these duo combos like this one here, which is the Delta set, and then this other set here that we have, which is the jet black, kind of like a more sleek, modern, has that look like, hey, you don't need to invest in a $500,000 modern kitchen when you got these guys right here, get you halfway there. And these, what I like about these, it's really a lot about preference in terms of the knives you use, but what's nice about these Delta is that I'm someone who likes a very nice, thick handle. And so these are really great knives for what we're doing today. Show you a little bit about what we're cooking in terms of the citrus salad. We've got a shaved citrus salad with some peas, asparagus. And so I'll go ahead and walk you through some of the steps here. But before I do, I want to remind everybody that today, Schmidt Brothers Cutlery is giving away a set of knives. And so Samantha's going to drop some info in the chat, so be sure to stick around. We'll be announcing that at the end of the lesson today. And so, without further ado, walking you through some of the steps here. We're going to go ahead and preheat our oven to 325. If you haven't done that, now's the perfect time to do that. So you can go ahead and do that. We will be lining a baking sheet with some parchment here, getting that ready to toast these nuts. Then we will get into supreming our citrus. What we love about this lesson is that it's the perfect chance to practice your knife skills. And this is just something that's really going to change the way you view citrus. Once you know how to cut a citrus into supremes, it's just like much more enjoyable to eat. And it's also kind of a way to flex in the kitchen. It's beautiful. It's going to add a nice, really just like finishing touch to the salad with the visuals as well. So once we do that, then we're going to jump into cutting some of the vegetables, and then we're going to make the dressing. What I love about this salad is that it's really like, it screams spring to me. I don't know about you, Samantha, but just anything citrus and with this much color, like the contrast in color, I'm excited for this one.
I just love asparagus. I kind of go asparagus crazy in the springtime because it's so much better than other times of year and so much cheaper than other
Totally.
times of year.
Totally. And if you have asparagus season a little earlier, you can get these nice kind of big asparagus to really practice your peeling skills as well. In this case, it's another chance to practice using these Schmidt knives if you have kind of like some smaller asparagus as we have here. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and coat these nuts. Walnuts work great. Pecans are another good alternative. We've got about 2 tablespoons of honey here. This is going to allow them to kind of caramelize just a little bit. We don't want to burn that honey. That's why we're cooking it at pretty low temp. But we're just going to kind of drizzle it in on top of these nuts here, spread it out evenly before we get it out onto the pan. We're just going to try to give them some color, really release that nutty umami flavor of the roasted nuts mixed with the honey. And this is going to add a nice kind of crunch as well. It's really another way to add a layer of texture to the salad. So we're going to go ahead and mix that up with a spoon here. Nice and evenly coated. And then you're going to just spread this out onto the sheet. I'll tell you, I knew I was an amateur chef when I was starting because my inclination was always just to put this kind of thing directly on the sheet pan. And hey, be kind to yourself, save yourself some mess. Parchment is the way to go for this one. It's going to kind of create like a non-stick situation where you can kind of slide these off. You don't want to go with foil because the honey and everything is going to get caught. You may have some tearing. This is really the way to go, parchment for this situation. Once we have them just kind of evenly spread, We're gonna go ahead and pop those in the oven, which again is at 325. We'll roast those for about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, checking them after 10. And there we are.
I'm just always amazed by the flavor difference you get when roasting nuts, especially walnuts. It's just so much like nuttier. That sounds ridiculous to say, but so much more flavorful and well-rounded.
Absolutely. Just getting this here in the oven, and then we're good to go. All right. While this is going, I'm gonna wash my hands, sticky fingers. The next step, this is what I'm most excited about with this lesson. Supreming this citrus, something that might feel a little scary if you're not familiar, but it's incredibly easy. It just takes a little bit of finesse and practice. And the nice thing is that we're well equipped with a nice selection of knives to choose from. And so for this, it's like important to really choose the right weapon. And so for fine cutting, we're really gonna wanna use a paring knife. In this case, I'm gonna use the paring knife from the Jet Black just because it's a little bit kind of a finer blade. It's got a smaller handle, and it allows to really kind of get in there and delicately segment this orange. And so the first things we're doing are chopping off the top and bottom. This will give us kind of a nice surface to cut on. You could do it directly on the cutting board, but I'm gonna show you a way to do it directly into the bowl, because what happens if you're cutting on the board, you're missing out on all the delicious juices, and we don't want that. We wanna save that, get those flavors in the salad as well. So what we're doing is we're basically just removing the peel as well as the pith. The pith is basically that kind of white spongy material that you'll see here, and oftentimes it's discarded. There are situations when we do use that, when we eat that as well. A good example would be a nice marmalade. If you're candying or dehydrating the peels, if you treat it properly, you could leave the pith. But in general, you're gonna remove that. And so for the actual removing of the peel and the pith, we're gonna leave this on the cutting board here just to kind of show you the best way for those of us who maybe aren't as comfortable with our knife skills. You don't have to do this part directly over the bowl, but you do wanna actually remove the segments over the bowl to get those juices. And so what you'll do is you'll just kind of follow along the edge of the peel around the shape and curve of the citrus. The less of that orange you actually cut off, the better. And just kind of take your time, not trying to cut off too large of segments at a time. And hopefully we're just kind of removing that pith. You'll see I'm getting a little bit of the orange, that's okay, but mostly just the exterior and the pith is what we're going for. Then once we've got that, we'll just continue with our others as well, same thing. Just around the edges, following the curve. There we go. I'm getting excited for these ingredients that are all gonna be in season and not too long. I feel like this is the time when things are just around the corner with things truly popping off, what you can get at the farmer's market, peas included. We'll give it about another couple months or so before we're there in Seattle. We had a shorter season. I'm curious though, what else are folks excited about for seasonal ingredients with their salads? Drop it in the chat.
And one thing for those knife skills, can you maybe demonstrate to us, really show us how you're holding that knife for the framing?
Exactly. So for this one, we are putting our thumb just kind of at the base there for extra kind of securing. And then we are putting our finger here, basically just wrapped around the bottom, making sure that our fingers aren't down here where we're at risk of really cutting ourselves. So you want to be careful to secure your index finger just around the edge there. Curled back is the safest way. So we'll continue going with this one. Continue curving around. And then we're just about there with our final orange. All right, and what's nice, I would say, is if you can, use caracaras. You could use even a variety of oranges. Like in this case, we've got some caracaras. And we've also got kind of like a blood orange, just to kind of give some contrasting color and also get different flavors as well from the different citrus varieties. But what's nice about this salad is I feel like it's really customizable to use this recipe and this dressing as a base for adding all kinds of things to it, as I was pointing out, with what's in season around you. The other thing is, if you want to make this like a full meal, I'm someone who's been eating a lot of salads like this as my entire meal. And what I'll do is I'll add different forms of protein. So for the vegetarians, I live with the vegetarians, so we may do a lot of like chickpeas and garbanzos and beans. For myself, I'm also adding things like tuna or cured meat as well. Those are great options as well. And now we are ready to start supreming, and so we are gonna do this over a bowl, as I mentioned, to really make sure that we're saving every bit of the juice, just cutting off these last little bits of pith that I might have missed on the bottom. Looks like there's just a couple there, and then we're there. So this is when, again, you wanna hold the knife securely at the base, the thumb there, the index finger wrapped around, and you want to hold the orange in a way where your hand isn't at the bottom, so you don't want to risk going down straight into your finger, of course. So you want to hold this basically directly, as much as possible, down vertically over the bowl. And then we're starting here. You can just follow the lines of each segment. So we're just going down, and then we're going on the other side. And you'll just kind of angle that off there. And there you go. No pith there. We're getting some of the juices as well in there. And then you can just keep kind of going section by section. So that'll allow you to just follow either, whatever direction you want to go in, whatever feels comfortable. But we want to make sure we don't get any of that pith. And if you do, that's okay. If it's not perfect, you can just kind of cut it off there. As you're starting, you might have a couple little straggling pieces hanging on there. Then we're going to continue segmenting, and being, of course, very mindful of the fingers the whole time. Samantha, do you have any favorite recipes that use supreme citrus at all?
Ooh, I like supreme citrus like on top of a pudding, like a panna cotta or even just a vanilla pudding. I also grew up with like the big brunch or like Easter thing would be my mom would supreme or at least, peel with a knife and then slice just a huge array of citrus and like kind of arrange it in a rainbow.
Love it.
Or like supreme citrus with avocado, like that. Grapefruit and avocado is delicious.
Yum. I'm here for it. Yeah, I feel like especially something with cream as a dessert, the contrast of the citrus and the cream is just amazing. And then here we're just removing the center section so we can get this last little section here. And be patient. Don't rush yourself. Especially as you're, just learning knife skills, it's totally okay to take a little bit of time there. And if you have to slice off the pith, that's fine. There we are. And then we're just going section by section.
I feel like supreming is one of those things that's just really almost meditative. Just kind of, you can't take it too fast.
Totally.
You just have to be patient, do the thing. The process is part of it.
It's totally an active meditation, without a doubt. And we're seeing that some of that juice is spilling in there, and I'm just kind of throwing these peels on the side here. And here we are. This is a perfect way to kind of practice your knife skills with the paring knife specifically. I would say like it's one of the most, fundamental ways of using a paring knife in many ways and get more comfortable with it. And if you're maybe paring something that's a little bit less delicate, I'd say the Delta knife with that larger handle is an awesome option. there we are. Truly an act of meditation, but it's so much fun. Once you kind of get in a rhythm and you feel like you can do it more safely, it is fun.
I kind of feel the same way about things like, you know, shelling peas or doing fava beans or something. Or a more extreme is like making Concord grape jam, because you have to peel all the grapes. You like squeeze them out of the peels.
Totally. Another thing that I think of is like crab season, picking through the crab. Good food takes work sometimes. And I would say this definitely applies to that philosophy. All right, got that last little bit there, and then we just have one more. Beautiful. And for me, what's nice about this recipe is that it gives like a little bit of some of like that kind of like mid-east flavor with the tahini and the feta. Tahini is just such a secret weapon for so many salad dressings, but there's a lot of applications that a lot of us don't think of it. For me, it's like a pantry essential item that I'll put onto everything from porridge to brownies. I know that's kind of like a viral recipe that some folks may know. Cookies as well. Chocolate chip cookies, one of my favorite chocolate chip cookie ingredients.
Sometimes when I don't have tahini, I'll use sunflower seed butter.
Nice.
Works kind of similar too. It's got that savory. It's not as sweet as peanut butter.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what actually is tahini, it's literally just pureed sesame seeds, maybe with a little bit of seasoning. If you see any added ingredients on there, it's definitely not like a true legit tahini. So we want to look for those that the only ingredient is basically just sesame seeds, maybe a little bit of salt. Just adds so much umami flavor, just depth, nuttiness to any dish. And you can use it in small amounts where somebody who might not like tahini, I bet you can slip it a little bit into a dressing and they would love it, especially with all the added sweetness from both the citrus juice and the honey as well. And we're just about there. It's a little tricky as you're there in these last stages where it's kind of falling apart on you. So I'm gonna go ahead and just save that as a little scrap to munch on. But here we are, yeah. Not too much pith, so we did okay. Decent job here. Ready to save that just to kind of put in as a final stage with the salad. But in the meantime, we can go with chopping some of the other ingredients that we have here. All right, we'll reserve that. So now that we're done with some of the fine cutting, we had this jet black paring knife that was perfect for us. We're gonna move into using a larger knife at this point. So we're gonna check out what our options are here from Schmidt. And for this one, like I was saying, I'm somebody who does love a knife with a larger handle. For me, this chef knife is the way to go. I like something with a little bit of heft, but it's also, again, preference. Your hand size has a lot to do with it. So there's a lot of factors that go into exactly what model you might pick. But for me, this is like gonna do the job, as we're really just trying to pick something that we can have that rocking motion with, and that's gonna be kind of like the difference between using the chef knife and the paring knife. Is we want something that's gonna have a large surface area and allow us to cut at scale. And I'm sure Paulette can tell you all about it in the chat, some of the other technicalities and specs of all their knife sets, including these.
Yeah, and I love, I think it's really useful if you get to go into a place where you can pick up different knives, because different things might feel good to you. I personally like a smaller knife. I have very small hands, and so a bigger knife tends to kind of feel unwieldy for me. But it's kind of nice to also have that around for that like big kind of watermelon, Hubbard squash sort of application, something with a bit more heft and length. But my kind of daily driver is a little bit smaller of a chef's knife.
I hear it. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of like specs that are custom to each of us. I think also it just depends on the application. Like, it's really nice when you're doing something heavy duty like butchery to have a nice big handle like this. And so I'm gonna use this knife for the asparagus, which if you have larger asparagus, it's a lot easier to just take the peeler and go ahead and peel it that way. But since this is so thin, it's also a chance to cut and kind of get like that similar really consistency and texture if we cut it properly as you would with shaved asparagus. So what I'm doing is I'm angling this just at about 45 degrees, maybe just a little bit more. And then that's gonna basically allow us to cut at a bias. And bias means that we'll have more surface area and we'll have kind of like thinner, longer slices. And so these first ones are gonna be just little nubs, but as we get a couple slices in, you'll see what I'm talking about. And we're just getting that rocking motion. Slowly moving your fingers in as you cut with each step there. And then we'll continue cutting. This is probably about, if I had to guess, maybe 1/8 of an inch thick or so. Continue cutting. And again, if you have bigger asparagus, definitely go ahead and shave it with the peeler. It's a nice way to do it. But for us, we're gonna chop. Then a little bit trickier for those heads to get them. Leave them as they are there. All right, and then another handy dandy Schmidt tool that we've got here is the bench scraper. This is gonna allow us to easily get this off the cutting board. We'll save that, reserve it for later. All right.
So, in general, for this thinner asparagus, you're doing this because it'd just be a little hard. But for that meatier asparagus, you get the using just the peeler is kind of the easiest way.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So we're going to continue cutting that there. We're just going to use a little bit more. We had a pretty large bunch here, so just a bit more. Curious what people's favorite asparagus recipes are out there. Do we have any folks who typically aren't into asparagus, who have become asparagus lovers? I feel like a lot of us may not love cooked asparagus, and it has kind of maybe like if it's overcooked a little bit, almost like a slimy consistency. So what's nice about this recipe is that you can avoid that. And the other thing is that you're getting a lot more nutrients from this as well. So this is why people love the raw diet, because you're just getting that much more out of it in terms of health. All right, that's looking about right. So
Somebody suggested air fryer asparagus. I've never tried that.
Yes, I have, totally. Air fryers, you know, I used to not love them, but I've grown to love it. We have one in my house, and I feel like for roasting things specifically, the name isn't always fit what it does. I feel like it roasts things a lot better than it fries them, but for getting that nice crispy exterior on the asparagus, I think it does great things. That last little bit with the bench scraper. And then we're just getting ready to cut into our peas here. So we've got about a couple months until it's pea season, kind of like I was saying. Pretty soon we're gonna have like things like pea shoots, things like that as well. And so what we're doing is we're cutting off each end, and this is why we're gonna want a nice knife with a large surface area like a chef knife. It's gonna be hard to do with those smaller paring knives. Santoku, Japanese knife, those are kind of my favorite variety. And we're just gonna kind of wanna hold these in a uniform way at the base so that they're not moving all over the place. Just chopping off those last few ends there. Any ugly bits as well, we'll chop those off. Here we are. I feel like salads are kind of like the slept on game changer for how to level up your chopping skills. And if you're making a salad with a lot of components, there's just so many chances to practice different cutting techniques. And this is the perfect example of that with this recipe. And I'll be honest, I think a lot of people view salads sometimes as like, you know what, that's not something that I'm gonna look forward to making as like a highlight of a meal. But this one with all the bright, vibrant colors, it's a fun one. Just like the nuttiness from that tahini, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I feel like salads just kind of get a bad rap because when a lot of people think of salad, they think of like either romaine or iceberg and like some cherry tomatoes and carrots.
Maybe some pickles if you're lucky.
Yeah, but there's, I have quite a few friends that their favorite thing for me to make for them is a salad. And I make I call them stuffed salads that are more stuffed than greens. And when you have a lot of components, it's just a great way to get a lot of variety into your diet, a lot of different vegetables, but also get that satisfaction from maybe some cheese or, some protein, lots of options.
Totally. It's like salads don't have to be boring. If they feel boring, maybe we're the boring ones. We can just keep it a little bit more interesting with how we approach them, the ingredients we use, all the varieties in terms of dressings that we can iterate from and play around and just be creative.
Have you ever done a nutritional yeast dressing?
Ooh, love that.
It's one of my faves.
Definitely.
So good.
I love doing that in a Caesar especially. Sometimes I'll even do like a vegetarian or vegan Caesar where we're not throwing the anchovies in, and that kind of gives it some of that umami flavor. And just chop up these last few. We're almost there. And then I'm really excited to show you this trick with the chives. I feel like chives can be a little bit annoying to chop just because they often are flying all over the place. And so I'm gonna show you a trick to kind of keep them in place while you chop. That's gonna make your life a lot easier. Use this bench scraper again. And we're gonna check on those nuts in just a minute here. We're just about there with the timing. Beautiful. So we've got about a cup of crumbled feta that was pre-crumbled. We love crumbling it ourselves. Oftentimes, if you're buying pre-crumbled cheese, there's things like preservatives, and you also save money by not buying the pre-crumbled cheese. So,
yeah, especially not pre-shredded cheese too, because the pre-shredded cheese has stuff to prevent it from clumping, which means it doesn't melt as well. So
exactly.
It's worth considering. Maybe that's worth it to you, and that's great. But worth trying if you haven't given it a shot.
Absolutely. So we've got our chives here. This is maybe about like a quarter bunch. Every bunch comes in about a different size. We're trying to get about 2 tablespoons out of this. And so what I'm doing is I'm kind of creating a little chive bouquet. It's my kind of romance. If somebody gives me a bouquet of chives, I would be here for it. And so we're just kind of fanning them out, and we're trying to get the base just as evenly as possible towards the bottom. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap it up in this damp paper towel that I had ready to go. And that's gonna kind of keep it in place and allow you to chop more easily and not have some of those aspects of them flying just all over the place.
Somebody's asking you about the nuts, and I'm smelling them. So
we're getting there. Yeah.
if we get burned nuts, that's on you.
That's on me. Let's check them. Uh-oh. Yeah, we're gonna redo these guys.
Yeah, I feel like you're not a chef if you haven't burned nuts a couple of times.
Oh, no, not at all, right? Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, we've got some on hand here. We'll get these going. All right. So we're going to continue cutting these here. We've got some nuts on hand. Thankfully, we've got a team of people here, and this is why you got to rely on your friends to set timers. Set timers, people. So we're going to chop, chop, chop with these, and we're going to do it pretty fine. Kind of like a mince. but you're seeing that the base is keeping this all together here.
Ooh, Mary likes to cut her chives with scissors. So
Ooh, that's a
a
nice
good
trick. I
idea,
love
too.
that. So we've got this base here. All right. Just about 2 tablespoons, and we are ready to go there. So we're gonna mix these in with the dressing ingredients.
Paulette says that we've got a new phrase for, somebody that annoys you. That guy really burns my nuts.
Love it. There's a first time for everything. I can't say I burned nuts before, but this is what happens when you gotta set timers, people.
Oh man, the number of nuts I've burned is truly legendary. I'll set timers, then I'll be like, oh, it's not quite done yet.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, I just need another minute. And then, of course, forget about it in the second minute.
Oh yeah, it's part of the game, peoples. Thankfully, we have some backup here. But basically what I'm doing is just pouring all the ingredients into this jar. The tahini, the apple cider vinegar, the orange juice, the olive oil. We need a little bit of seasoning as well. Some salt, we'll shake that up. Make sure you really should give it a good shake to incorporate all the ingredients. And then the last thing to do is just slice up this avocado. Got these chives here. We'll get this into the bowl using our bench scraper. Beautiful. And then there's, a few ways to slice avocados. My favorite way is to first remove it from the skin, get it out of there. But before I do, I wanted to show you a little trick for getting the perfectly ripe avocado. You'll see there's that kind of stem. You can remove that. You can, of course, see if you can give it a little bit of an indent. That's a good indicator. But for me, the real trick is the color of that inner stem. And so if you see like a golden brown, if it's starting to kind of get golden, perfectly ripe. This one's just a little bit under, and so it's probably gonna need about a couple more days. So if you really wanna ripen it up quickly, what you'll do is you put it in a paper bag with a banana as well, and then basically a couple of days later, check it. If you wanna extend the life, you put it in the fridge. Give it a good twist. And then I prefer to remove it from the skin and then cut it. There's different methods, of course. So we'll remove it first here, and then give it a good slice. All right. I am getting hungry. This is looking good, folks. So you're getting citrus from many angles because we're also have some of the citrus juice here. You get some additional acid from the apple cider vinegar as well. We're just gonna slice this. And then we're ready to mix all these ingredients. We've got about 6 cups of arugula here. You could use a mixed blend, maybe some arugula and some lacinato kale. That could be another option. Here we are. So we're going to pour in some of this dressing into this bowl. We're going to reserve some of it to pour on top afterwards if we need. But we're going to start here, getting about 2/3 of it or so in the base of the bowl. And then we're going to toss here with the rest of our ingredients. So we're going to start with the lettuce. We're gonna kind of layer. get in some of the asparagus. We're saving the supremes until a little bit afterwards along with the feta, but all the rest of the veggies we're getting in there, including the avocado. Use our bench scraper. This is becoming a vibrant, colorful salad, y'all. Continue layering. This one we'll start giving it a good toss. And you'll see it's going to really shrink in volume as we're coating it in all that delicious dressing. And then pour in the rest of our ingredients. We're there. Top with the supremes, the feta, and our nuts, which thankfully we had some backup on hand. Thanks to our friends here at the studio. There we are. And then the chives here, you're gonna wanna mix into the dressing, and so we're gonna pour the rest of the chives in, give it a good shake, make sure we're incorporating those as well. Shake, shake, shake. And then we'll dress the rest. We're good to go. Yum, this is looking good, peoples. So at this point, I'm ready to top with our supremes. Just continue coating and dressing just a little bit, evenly. As soon as we got kind of an even coat, we're ready for our final garnishes. Hopefully you learned some supreme tricks, thinking about other ways you can incorporate them into different salads. Maybe this is a recipe that you're gonna repeat yourself. Or like we were talking about, there's just so many delicious applications of supreme citrus.
This is looking great.
Mm-hmm.
I love on a salad too, like some fresh cracked or ground like coriander or some sesame seeds, you know, something crunchy on the top is great.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
big flaky salts is delicious.
Oh, absolutely. Then we will coat with our nuts, and we are good to go. Look at that, y'all. That's looking beautiful. Wow.
One of the people was asking if there's any asparagus left over, if you could shave one just to demonstrate technique.
Let's do it. I love it. Go ahead and just get these garnishes, and then I'll show you that in a second here. All right. Got about a cup of the crumbled feta here. Get that nice and evenly. There we are. Beautiful salad. So since we got some extra asparagus here, let's go ahead and dive into that. Show you what that looks like. So the easiest way is, again, if you have thicker asparagus, but since we don't, we're just gonna go ahead and do a demo with the thinner. So, place it directly on the cutting board and kind of use the base of the cutting board to push back against the peeler. And you'll see, once it gets to a certain kind of level of thickness, it's gonna not really peel a whole lot more, which is why we didn't do it with this level of thickness. But what you get from the peeled aspect is like that really paper thin, almost like with a mandolin, that's gonna soak up a lot more of that dressing. So that's the benefit of doing it that way, and it's gonna be a lot easier to do if you have some thicker asparagus. But without further ado, I think it's just about time to eat. This is looking delicious here. Let's give it a try and see how we did. All right. see. Make sure we get a nice bite of the Supreme for all that hard work. This is like truly the fruit of your labor moment. So many layers of texture and flavor. That's delicious. And are we just about there, Samantha, to announce the winner? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Paulette will be announcing it any minute now. Paulette, are you ready to announce a winner?
This is an exciting moment for a lot of us, huh?
Unfortunately, I don't think we're the ones eligible to win, but alas.
Jax. That tahini just brings this all to life. Amazing.
She's about to announce. Drum roll, please.
That's exciting. Drum roll. And then, while I got you here, our next class is going to be on the 1st at 4 p.m. It's going to be pork chops with pea, mint, ricotta, taught by Joel.
Yeah, we'll be excited to see that. It sounds like a delicious dish. Nice springy early summer dish also. And it looks like Corinne won. So if she can, if they can send us a direct message in the chat, that would be great. And we'll get you all connected up with those.
Beautiful.
That great Apollo knife block set, which includes a cool sidekick, so you can take your steak knives all the way to the table. So that's pretty exciting.
So lucky to have our friends from Schmidt Brothers here supporting us. So lucky to use their knives in the day-to-day. And yeah, I just wanted to say, you can go ahead and find your cutting edge. Thank you so much. Go get yours today.